Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Gaming, and Curseborne, I suppose, because this video is one that's been requested. You see, you probably noticed those opening stills before my videos start, or the ones at the end, that say, if you want a video, pick up a copy of the deluxe version of The World Below and drop me a message via MatthewDawkins.com. Or support me on Patreon. If you want a video of a particular type, just do that and get in touch. Well, one of you has today. Nicolo is his name, and he got in touch with me to ask for a character concept video for Curseborne. Not stats, but wanting to know how a character transitions from being a regular mortal to becoming one of the Accursed, to finding their lineage, finding their family, accepting their life in the world of Curseborne and as one of the damned. So we're going to riff, we're going to improvise, because this is not something I have planned. I read the email and I thought, I can do this. So Nicolo is uncertain how a character makes that transition from being a mortal to being one of the Accursed. So let's talk about it. Let's pick a character by the name of George, because George is a kingly name. George, in this case, I think we will go against stereotype. There's a lot of expectation that all characters in Curseborne are going to be teens. I've seen people post that a lot of places, that they're all high schoolers. That is not the case at all. You can definitely play teens in Curseborne, but you could play characters of any age. And in this case, George is going to be in his late 40s. I think George is a bit strung out, a bit wrung out. He has been through the ringer in his life. He's twice divorced. He has a kid, and he never sees the kid. I mean, he's probably 48, 49. The kid's probably grown up and got their own job and maybe even started their own family at this point. There were plenty of occasions where he reached out to his daughter, Liz, and she reached out to him. And in each occasion, despite their best efforts, they found that they had nothing in common. So it isn't that they hate each other, it's just that they have no love for each other. Yet there is also a sense of obligation. And when it comes to his ex-wives, well, the first one ran off with his best friend, which was, of course, quite heartbreaking to him. And the second one just started seeing him differently, started acting afraid of him, and he was never entirely certain why. He resisted this divorce for a very long time, and unfortunately it's that lingering remembrance of their breakup that really is the only memory they have of the relationship, despite the good times. She started acting afraid of him, like he was actually a monster, despite the fact he wasn't doing anything monstrous. He wasn't violent, he wasn't manipulating her, he wasn't gaslighting her, he wasn't abusive, but she just felt on edge around him. And so George, a high school teacher, to use the, I guess, Walter Whiteism, feels he could have been a lot more. He could have been happily married, he could have been successful, he could have been a better parent, but he has failed all three. And right now, he is just human. Well, I think George is walking the same route through town that he always walks to find his car. He doesn't have a parking space at the school. Parking spaces are strictly limited. He has to park elsewhere. And so he's walking home after a day at school, realizing it's going to be another TV dinner at home. But at least he's got a new series he can binge watch, and so that's what he's trying to keep his mind on. And it's to his great surprise that as he's off in his daydream, a daydream that he has practically every working day, that he realizes he must have taken a wrong turn. He's walked this route the best part of 20 years and never got lost. But he suddenly finds himself looking about and realizing he doesn't know this place. He has never been here before. It's still the city. It still feels and smells and sounds like the city he knows. But this isn't a part of it he recognizes. The first thing he does is he turns around, tries to retrace his footsteps. He's walking for a minute before he thinks, you know what, I couldn't have just drifted off for more than a minute. And so then he gets his phone out and he looks on Google Maps. Where am I? No signal. And what's more, it's then that he starts realising that he can't see anybody. There's no one around, there's no one on the streets. There's vehicles, there's storefronts, there's a whole commercial unit up there, there's even some flats, but there's no one on the street. He's starting to feel very alone. He's starting to feel like he's stepped into an episode of The Twilight Zone. No signal on his phone. Well, all he can really do is keep walking. But no, he thinks better of it. He remembers the time when, as a younger man, there were some muggers who, well, thankfully they didn't take his wallet, but they were getting closer and closer. And he decided, very wisely, to do one of those things you should absolutely do in such a case. If it's nearby, if you are determined to run and not give up what you have on you, because you don't want to risk the violence, you go into a restaurant. You go into a McDonald's. There's always someone working at McDonald's, and they will always have a phone in the back. So he darts into the nearest restaurant. It's called the Chicken Shed. Not terribly appealing, but he heads into the Chicken Shed, just like he did when he was almost mugged as a younger man, except back then it was a Burger King. And so he's in the Chicken Shed, and he can smell the chicken frying. It smells greasy. It smells fattier than chicken should be. And he can see people moving backwards and forwards behind the counter. There's no customers sat in any of the booths, but he walks up to the counter. He clears his throat. "Excuse me," he says. No one turns around. "Excuse me," he says again. "I seem to have got myself lost. Could you tell me where it is that I am?" It's at that point that one of the servers in the Chicken Shed turns around. And where they should have a face, they instead have a mangled mulch of flesh and sinew. It looks like a skinned piece of chicken that's been processed and put back together again. And out from the pores in this chicken ligament and cruft face is oozing that thick grease, oozing into the collar of the young person's shirt, down their throat. He's in a nightmare. That must be it. Or he was hit by a car and he's in a coma or something like that. Now more of them are turning around. More of them are showing themselves to be horrific monstrosities, mutations, abominations. He doesn't have the word for it. He's not an English teacher. He's a maths teacher. He runs. He darts back through the door. He's on the street. And now he's running. He is running and he is running. He is trying to find his bearings. He's trying to work out exactly where he is. And as he does so, he turns a corner. A crossroads, in fact, is where he finds himself. And there's a lady standing there. A lady with a normal face. Oh, she's a little taller than most humans. She is a little more angular than most humans. And her smile reminds him, he remembers a novel he read when he was young, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. There's something of a Cheshire cat to her. But that doesn't matter. The point is, she doesn't look like a monster, and he says, "Please, you've got to help me. There's something back there. That I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going on, but there's something back there." And she says, "It's okay. It's okay. You're lost. You took the wrong route at the crossroads, and I can help guide you back." And this is all just passing him by. He doesn't know what on earth is going on and what this woman is talking about. But she continues, "I can help you. But it's time for you to finally accept what you are, George. How do you know my name?" "You were always destined to come here," she says. "You were always destined to arrive here, to take the wrong step at the crossroads. But you have been so obstinate, so stuck in your ways, that you always had to walk straight. It's only today, when you were at your denier, that you turned left. You took the left fork, and brought you to me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know where I am. I don't know what you're talking about," says George. Just take my hand. Accept my help. Accept what you are. Accept that you are what you have always been, she says. And I will guide you back to a life, not only a life that you know, but a life where you can be more fulfilled. What is it that you want? I want to be home, says George. You want more than that, she says. I want my family. Ah, now we're getting somewhere. You want a family. Do you want one of your wives back? Which one? Both of them? Do you want your daughter? Is that it? I don't know, says George. I want to get out of it. Okay, well, we'll work on that. Tell you what, let's call it a rain check. I will give you one thing, like a genie grants a wish. I will grant you one wish. For now, I will just get you home. I'll get you home in your new form, your new body, your new spirit. You will have changed if you accept this deal. Yes, of course I will accept. Please, just get me home. I want out of this dream. And so they shake on it. And he stumbles down the road, and there he is back on a street he recognizes. What was all of this? What just happened? George doesn't know. He can't compute. The lady isn't there anymore. She just isn't there, and he tries to maybe he needs to see a doctor. Maybe he had some kind of fit. He phased out for a moment there. He doesn't know. He can't explain it. He does not know. So he heads home. He gets to his car. He drives home in this half fugue. Did any of that happen? When he gets home, he realizes something about himself. He realizes that he can do things that he couldn't do before. He only notices it the first time when he's staring in the mirror, trying to get a sense of who he is and where he was and how much was imagined. When he realizes that this face he's looking at isn't his own, he can actually see behind his eyes, and he can see the clockwork construction that makes him up back there. Clockwork lacquered with fire and bile. And not only that, he can float. He can fly. He isn't restricted to standing there. What is going on? And he only has a barest control over it. George realizes that he isn't human, that he doesn't belong here, that he is an outcast. But that's only part of his journey. Because understanding that he's an outcast doesn't tie him to a family. Oh, he was brought over here by probably an outcast of the League of the Hidden Crossroads, which we spoke about earlier in the week, of course. But that doesn't mean that that's the family he joins. This is where we, as the story guide, the players, would be looking at things like, well, what is his ancestry? Well, is he genetically linked to another outcast? Is that why his daughter is so distant from him? Maybe she is suffering from the same thing. Or maybe he was adopted. Maybe this pact he made with the woman at the crossroads made him an outcast, and so that can funnel him toward a family. Well, he gets to know his self a little better. He keeps in mind that promise the lady made, a wish, one wish he can make, and he said he wanted his family. What does that even mean to him now? Then he realizes he doesn't want one of his wives back. He doesn't want his daughter back. He wants to know what his real family is. And so he goes walking again. And somehow this time he knows which way to go. He knows which direction to turn. He knows when to take the left fork. And instead of heading to the chicken shed, he goes straight for the crossroads, and he finds the woman there again, and he says, yes, I've decided I want to know my family. My wish is to be a part of my real family. And she claps her hands together because she is overjoyed. And she takes him by the hand and introduces him to them. They travel far. They go to another part of town he doesn't know. It's a dangerous part, filled with darkness and shadows. But he feels completely safe in her hands. He feels safe in this room that she brings him to. with all of its filigree and accoutrements, its sculptures and designs. It doesn't look human. It doesn't look anything terrestrial. Again, not a history teacher. No master of culture is George. But he knows when things look alien. Everyone here looks alien. And somehow that doesn't scare him because he realizes now that he too is alien. And so he drops his mask. Because in this company he can. Now he feels comfortable. He finally feels like he has discovered his true self. That is our character concept. That is how George goes from being a mortal to becoming accursed to finding his family. I hope that helps you, Nicolo. That is obviously all just improvised, off-the-cuff ideas that tie into something, of course, I was talking about earlier in the week with the League of the Hidden Crossroads, but this character could fit into any family. And indeed, they wouldn't even have to be outcast if you rejiggered it in a different way. Not every single outcast is going to go through this stepping into the Twilight Zone phenomenon either. This is just one idea. And concepts for Curseborne can be hugely varied. So I would love to hear in the comments your thoughts about how you want your character to realise that they are accursed, or the experiences you will go through, your characters will go through to finally realise that they are what they've always meant to be. Of course, you will also have other accursed that reject their nature, who want to be anything but. They want to be regular mortals again. Well, those can be explored too, maybe in another video. Until that time, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.